everybody wants to buy a land that has a certificate of occupancy. But funny enough, just a few people understand what this certificate of occupancy entails and how it came into being. It is pertinent to emphasize that before the 90s, there was nothing like certificate of occupancy in Nigeria, or by virtue of Section 1 of the Land Use Act, that all lands in Nigeria are being vested in the state government, the governor of the state, who holds the land as a trustee. Okay, so but back then it wasn't so. Lands were not vested in the governor of the state. As a matter of fact, individuals and chiefs were the major landowners in Nigeria as far back then. Okay, at a time there was movement from the rural areas to the urban areas, which eventually led to the scarcity of land in the urban areas. And this was equally triggered by the discovery of oil, crude oil in Nigeria, making some landowners very, very rich. Now, it now became difficult for the government to acquire land in Nigeria for their developmental projects. For instance, if the government want to get land for the building of schools, and other social amenities like borehole, roads, and the rest, it now became difficult because these lands were owned by individuals and chiefs who have refused to relinquish their ownership in that land to the government. At the time when the government eventually divested these people of their right to ownership of that land, these aggrieved people eventually sued the government and then get judgment in their favor in courts. So it now became difficult for the government to acquire land from individuals for their own developmental projects. So what the government now did was to appoint a panel in 1976. The government appointed a rent control panel in 1976 to look into the land distribution in Nigeria. And the panel came with a recommendation to the federal military body that all land in the state should be vested in the government. That is, the government should take and hold all land in the state. All right. Now, that same year, in that same 1976, another committee was equally formed, the Committee for the Drafting of the Constitution of the 1976, which is the committee was formed, and the committee equally came up with similar recommendations that vested in the states, the governor of the states, and as such, so that the people who do not own land in Nigeria will be able to own land to enable them create shelters for themselves. Now, the last straw that broke the camel's back was the 1977 committee, which was headed by the Supreme Court justices. After the committee came up with what we then know as the Land Use Act of 1978. The Land Use Act of 1978 is the act that regulates anything pertaining to land in Nigeria. It is the major law that regulates land in Nigeria, and it has been given credence by virtue of Section 315 of Subsection 5 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, to the effect that it is an existing law. So this in turn means that the Constitution has given more power to this act, this Land Use Act. All right. So now, after the Land Use Act was now promulgated, now came into being, some persons were not happy. They were aggrieved. They were not happy. And this set of persons were the traditional chiefs. You agree with me that I stated earlier that the traditional chiefs were the major shareholders of land in Nigeria. In fact, they own acres of land, not just plot. They own acres of land. So they were not happy with this incident because this act tend to divest them of their power to own land. In other words, this act tend to take away their land ownership. They take away the land, some of the lands they own in Nigeria. So they were not happy. But one set of persons were happy. The trade union workers, they were happy because the act gave them was in their favor, which in turn entails that they will be able to own land easily in Nigeria. So that was how the Land Use Act came into being. And it is the same Land Use Act that provided for, by virtue of Section 9 of the Land Use Act, for the certificate of occupancy, which we all know as the C of O today. Now, the certificate of occupancy is simply a certificate issued by the government or the governor of a state, which shows that a person is in possession or ownership of a particular plot of a particular property or land, as the case may be. It's more like an evidence that you are the owner of a particular plot of land, or you have been given possession of that particular plot of land. Okay, it comes with its own terms and conditions, as the case may be. So now that you know where how land use act came into be, I believe you've been able to appreciate the essence of this video, and you've been able to appreciate the fact that I had to trace the font et ergo, or origin of the land use act, from the 90s down to this our present time and dispensation. Now that you've known the origin or font et ergo of the certificate of occupancy, how it came into be, I believe you'll be able to appreciate the essence of this certificate of occupancy. Okay, it's not just okay for you to know what a certificate of occupancy means, but to trace it, to know how it came into being, how it came into Nigeria. Okay, so I think that will be all for today. If you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly do so today. Don't skip it for tomorrow. Do this today so that you won't forget. Turn on the bell notification. Like this post, share to your friends and well wishers so they too can learn from this video. Share to any person interested in real estate investment so they too can invest safely and rightly too. My name is Isaac Okeke. I'm a lawyer, a property lawyer at that, duly involved in real estate. All right, and I use my knowledge of the property law in a bid to secure and safeguard the interests of my clients. So until I see you again, bye bye.